I'm literally going to be like 5 minutes. Just paid £5 to park it. Paid £5 to park it, they wouldn't let me film in the cafe. Ridiculous. Good start. Can I park here? I don't know if I can bloody park here. Got to move the car. This is a good start to the video. Me just trying to find a parking space. That's the whole episode. I think I almost gave myself a flat tyre. It's going well. £4 for 15 minutes. What's going on? 15 minutes, £4. There he is. Hey mate, what can I get you?
Oak flat white.
3 oak flat whites. Thank you. Basically, the shtick is thank you so much. No, I'm perfect.
Thanks so much.
They obviously love you, know you. Yeah. This is Lloyd. You are Lloyd, yes. You are. This is Lloyd. He's got a twin brother. I always get. This is Lloyd. He's a drummer. We've worked together on a couple of things. Yeah. Lloyd plays some drums on a record that I made or half a record I made for an artist called Holly McVie, with Lloyd's brother Alex. And I actually rented your studio for a little bit as well.
Yeah.
For like, about 6 months? I was renting your studio.
And then never really used it.
Never used it. I just hung out. I just used it as an excuse to hang out with you and Alex and just look at your stuff and your gear. We got connected through a friend of mine who was Seth Tackerberry, who's a musician who I worked with a fair bit. Used to work with a lot. He played on some London Grammar music, but the reason I became like fascinated with you and your brother is because of the fact that basically, and we'll go and see the studio now, but you basically have a very small studio with a lot of extremely specific and expensive equipment that you would usually find in a more commercial studio.
I guess so, yeah. We kind of went in hard on that, on lots of drums, lots of mics, good stuff.
And you specifically are obsessed with drum, well you are a drummer.
Yeah.
And you are obsessed with recording drums.
Yeah.
Did you went to school to learn drums? You learned like jazz?
Yeah, I did like a jazz.
Okay.
Did a degree in like jazz. Mm-hmm. And it was good. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Not really in that scene anymore. No. Playing music, but found my way into recording and initially got the studio as a place to just play. Like 5-6 years ago, and then just started buying recording gear. So you did. So when you got it, it was just like a practice space. It was like an empty room, yeah. Then we just started buying mics. Then we, had a few engineer friends that would point us in certain directions of buying the right thing. Okay. The right tool.
Fine.
And
in the pandemic, Alex was telling me you kind of developed the studio.
It sort of went a bit turbo in the pandemic, because there was no gigs, so we were all that sort of furlough. What was it? The grant? The SCISS grant? Yeah. We just spend it on like a patch bay or something.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you were like, before you did this, obviously like you earn money as a session drummer, like live, that was primarily your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The live thing, and then that sort of went from the jazz world into more mainstream playing live, which then fed the studio world, Yeah. And
now, like I did with I think what's interesting, obviously you still do the live stuff, but I think what's quite interesting is, like with the Holly thing, like for example, I was making a record with somebody and I wanted some drums recorded and I didn't have she was an independent artist, didn't have a huge budget to do it. So I came to you and because you can record drums remotely in your studio and get a great sound for equivocally much less money. I then came to that. So now that's a big part of your earning, basically.
I would say so. Yeah, I think it's for like.
Is it more part of your earning than it is?
I think so, because I think a lot of people with a bigger budget wouldn't even cross their mind that this was a possibility, and they would just go to a big studio, pay for the studio, pay for the engineer, producer. Hopefully, you're getting paid, and then the musician. Yeah. But this is kind of 3 in 1.
It's a one-stop shop.
It's a one-stop shop for the drums, and obviously, like there's situations where it can be better just to get the big studio and the big room. A really amazing engineer, of which there are many. And I'm not saying that I've just got really focused into recording one thing, which is drums.
Which is notoriously the most difficult thing. It's the most difficult thing to record correctly. I've worked with some of the best producers and engineers in the world with London Grammar. I've been lucky enough to be in some of the best studios in the planet with London Grammar. And drums consistently is the most difficult thing.
Issues,
always. It's the most difficult thing to get right. Most engineers struggle if the room's not correct, or they don't have the right, or they just cannot get it right a lot of the time. It's usually a battle. So I think it makes even more sense that it's like you go to somebody like yourself who's like so specific, and I think like how specific you've got with it has then even been picked up by, like, you were telling me how like Jacob Collier, for example, reached out to you. How did that come about?
Yeah, so his bass player Rob Malarkey, incredible bass player. He put me forward for that because Jacob was looking for, I guess, an engineer to go to his house and dial in his drums. He bought a new kit at the time. It needed tuning and setting up, and then mic'd up in his room. His room in his house in North London.
That little studio, the famous room.
Yeah, that room. Yeah. So we went there. I just went there and helped him with the set of the drums, get a nice sound, and then chose some mic. I took some mics over, we set it up, and then he was like, great.
How long did that take?
That was just an evening.
Really? Okay. And he paid you for that time? Fine.
Yeah.
And is he... So he'd found you through Rob?
Yeah, Rob, I think he was just looking at the time. And then the management called me up, basically,
Was he... I'm kind of interested in Jacob because he's such a fascinating, like, musical character to me.
But he's definitely got, obviously his ear is amazing. Like, he's so comfortable on the drums. Even though he's a
great player.
Yeah, like obviously very unschooled, but
sure.
He played for me a lot, and it was just like, he's really got a real vibe. Yeah, for sure.
And what's his engineering capability like?
It was good, I think, just very natural, like the same as his drumming, I think. It was, or anything else.
Yeah.
Very just intuitive, and he had another engineer, Ben, who lives in America, who was working with us remotely that time. Okay. I think he does a lot of his engineering kind of remotely, sets up the studio and stuff. But I think he's more into the kind of the playing, obviously.
When was this that you did it?
I think that was a couple of years ago. It was for the album that just came out.
The Djesse Volume 4.
Yes. So I think
one of the many Jesses.
One of the many worlds.
One of the many Jesses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that album's out now. Okay. So some of those drum sounds, I guess, are on that record.
Okay, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is actually fascinating. Hang on, I'm putting more time. I'm putting more time on my phone. Okay, great. This is it's too good. I can't. That's so annoying.
Just park it again, like.
I can't. No time. It's gone. £4 finished in.
Down the drain.
Let's go before I have to spend another £4 on parking. Yeah. They've redone this whole bit.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's all happening, mate. Got a good little life here, man. Just like wake up, walk to Jolene, get a nice coffee, walk here.
You crack me up, you two fucking jokes.
Yeah, I don't really leave this road, you know.
Well, they've restocked that. They actually got something in it.
Yeah, one in. Here we are.
I haven't been here in so long.
So this is a new kit, actually.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah.
What kit is it?
This is like an old 60s Sona, like a German kit, beech shells. Most drums are like maple and birch. Yeah. And this is beech. That's what the Germans were doing. Is beech like particularly desirable? Is that or just a different sound? It's a different sound, yeah. I think not many. It was mainly a German thing, I think. Right. Fine. I don't normally have this many kits in the room at the same time, but that's new. That's just arrived. Okay. Where did you buy it? That's from a friend, a great vibraphone player. Okay, wow. Is that why this says True Vibe? These are like. What are they? These are so nerdy. These are like when you have straight legs like this on a floor tom. Yeah. And actually this one as well. Yeah. These old kits, they have these straight legs, and they really kill there's like no suspension. So they really kill the. Is that why, like, because in modern kits they sort of bend? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these ones, and they act as suspension. So these are funny little things that just take. They're like shock absorbers. Exactly. So you get the full. Yeah, it's super nerdy, but actually it's such a big
Why? Because otherwise it breaks the kit. The kit breaks down.
Yeah.
What sort of year did they realise that was a problem in the design?
Probably in like the 70s,
Okay.
late 60s. Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like such a silly, nerdy thing, but actually, the difference is astonishing.
Really interesting.
But it's such a huge. It makes such a huge difference, man.
Okay.
To the low end of the tom. Yeah.
Okay. This is a more modern kit.
Yeah, this is like an 80s kit.
Okay. Fine, there you go.
It's just a silly little thing, but you got to think about.
So what kit? This is a Gretsch kit.
This is a 80s. They call it square badge.
Yeah.
So many drums the eras are defined by the shape of their badges.
Okay.
So if you see a Gretsch with this square, mostly it's it'll be like an 80s thing, you know.
You mean Gretsch specifically is?
Most kits every decade seem to like change their badges.
And are most badges in the 80s on all kits square? Or
they differ kit to kit. Yeah, okay, exactly. Yeah. By the way, these are not like massive secrets. I think people know about this stuff, but it's interesting for people. I do this quite a lot with all my drums, which is get a bit of cloth, like a rag or a t-shirt or something, and put it across the shell. And because I think there's a certain reverberation that happens inside the shell, which sometimes without this, it gives you this like basketball effect when a drum is tuned low. You know when you bounce a basketball on a hard floor and it's got that really high ring? Floor toms can sometimes do that, and toms can do that. So this eliminates that. Right. So I do that to all my drums.
Okay. I've never heard a ring. You ever heard a basketball ring before in your life?
No drummers will know.
I'm sure they will.
All drummers will know, and probably a lot of recording engineers would know actually.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I've seen I've seen a lot of drummers work, and I've seen a lot of engineers trying to get drum sounds. You have the most specific
like OCD
dampening techniques that I've like all of these, like this kind of thing. Yeah. These like sort of what's underneath. Is that just tape with what underneath it?
That's just tissue paper basically.
Right.
Yeah, so fold it up and then.
Because I would say generally.
I got really into different types of duct tape. It's so stupid because. Just cheap duct tape, just gaffer tape, just comes off. Right. But I found this really strong. So stupid. I just found this really strong one. It's like glue.
Really?
And it just goes on. It doesn't move.
Where did you find it? On Amazon? Or
I think my dad's a bit of a handyman. And then this one, it's so stupid, man. You have a mic here, and then you put a bit of tape there, fold it over, and then it buzzes because it's moving. It's just you got to think about all this stupid stuff, you know.
Is the dampening, the duct tape and the dampening, is that specifically to remove buzz, or is it to also help the deadening of the...
Yeah, it's a deadening thing.
It's a deadening thing.
There's no buzz, there shouldn't be any buzz really, but you can create buzz, and dampening then can create buzz.
It's to make like the tom sound more dead, so you get that sort of more like...
Yeah, exactly.
Dead, flat sound.
Exactly. But these actually don't sound that dead. Okay. I think if I wanted it deader, I would use like cloth, you know.
Okay, fine.
Being in a small room is that like... Unfortunately, kind of just need to kill things a bit more, because if they're ringing out into this like small room, it doesn't really sound that good.
Because you're not getting any benefit from the room, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird. I think it's just better to kill things.
So your technique is more to be in basically make the kit and everything as dead as possible in the recording process in terms of like atmospheric sound.
In this room.
In this room.
Yeah.
And then you rely on digital reverb. Basically.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's worked for me in this room. Yeah, but I don't, as you know, I'm not like I don't use plugins. I think I try and go into this like the Bocasti, this thing here.
This is a digital reverb, but it's an outboard piece.
Yeah, but it's great.
So when you're adding ambience to your drum sounds, you're never using it in the box. You're always relying on the Bocasti or like a spring reverb.
Yeah, just because it's so good.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of. I've just never delved into the plugin world really.
Fine.
Because I've just like been so into analog gear.
Sure.
So, but sometimes I'll do like a room sound with this, and it'll make this just feel like a bigger room.
Sure.
And then I can do like the spring on the snare, or then like get the H2000 on like a gated room and put that on the snare. So I can have like 2 or 3 ambient channels running at the same time. So I can really like with the Holly record, man. Like we really went in hard on that, and made, you know, you wouldn't know it was in this room.
No. Ricky is like an engineer who he basically he sort of refurbished Studio 13, and he's also refurbishing Motor Bass Studio in Paris, which is a very famous studio.
That's an amazing studio.
Incredible studio.
Incredible.
Really.
The Wall of Pultex.
The Wall of Pultex, exactly. It was owned by a guy called Philippe Zadar, who was like, did like Phoenix, and he was in a band called Cassius. He did like incredible albums there. And it's in Paris. But that room is like a wooden kind of 1970s wood. It's a bit more like conch.
Yeah.
Whereas like a room that was built in the 70s and it's a bit more wood and has a bit more natural ambience, whereas 13 is more dead.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like really depends on what kind of music you're trying to make. I guess like 13 is good for like maybe like hip hop and sort of more groove, whether you want a slightly more dead drum sound, but you also have a bit of room, so it sounds like a posh studio, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
But then if you wanted to make like maybe something like more folky, or more like rock, I guess.
Yeah.
If you wanted a more room, you probably would want conch or somewhere where it has natural reflection, basically.
I love conch, man. I love conch.
Wait, do you think it's just like? Did you think Studio 13 was like? Did you prefer recording there? Did you prefer the drum sound there to conch, or is it just completely?
Well, I think it's like a chance thing, and I think like going to conch, doing James' record, that was the perfect room
for that. Yeah.
You know, thankfully.
Yeah.
So the record sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I think the Studio 13 doing Hannah's record, that is the right studio. That's the right room.
Yeah,
you know? There's so many engineers and producers that will walk into, they'll book a room out, you know, obviously with loads of money.
Sure.
And they'll book a room out and they'll go there and they'll be like, not the right room.
Sure.
Because the room is so important.
I do think
the room is crucial.
Yeah,
you know?
I think. It's funny because I never really appreciated that much until I met you and Alex. I think you guys really have taught me the importance of that when you're making.
Yeah, like choosing the right studio.
Yeah, choosing the right space, more than right room more than anything, or just ambience in general.
Yeah.
Like Alex is also obsessed with that.
Yeah.
Do you know who Steve Albini is?
Yeah,
You know that producer?
Yeah.
He had a thing about like faking ambience. He basically said he would never use he always felt like if you use artificial reverb, it took you. He said he said he could always sense it. Which is quite interesting.
Yeah, he's probably right. You
know? But I think younger people don't abide by that because we're like the generation of making music in small spaces with computers and we fake everything.
Yeah. Also in here, you can do. You know, I've had mics here.
So you have tried to get natural reverb.
Exactly, and I have experimented with that. I've got these mics here that help with that, and it's a challenge. You know, I should get a ladder or something.
How many snares do you think you own?
Well, I think they're all here, so it must be like sort of 16. I think there's a couple in the flat, along with like
20 snares.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
It's quite a lot of snares.
Yeah. You know what? What's interesting is
you need more.
Always comes down to the same handful.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, you come back to the same.
And that's me. You know, I love buying snares.
Do you sell and buy snares?
I buy snares.
You buy, you never sell them?
I never sell.
The snare sound is the most crucial element of it.
It probably is, right?
Well, it seems like across music, no matter what genre you make, the snare sound always seems to be the most important thing.
And it's the hardest to get. Well, sometimes it can just. You want to find a snare like. I gravitate towards snare drums that I know I could just put up, and they're the closest to what I want. And usually it's like this snare.
Okay.
Which is
What is it?
It's a Ludwig Aqualite. I'm not giving away a secret by saying that this is an amazing snare drum that everyone should own.
People know.
I think drummers know.
Yeah, but probably not the average person.
Probably not
I
the
don't
average
fucking know.
No.
I've never heard of it. So I obviously heard of Ludwig. So it's a Ludwig Aqualite. What era is it?
This is the 70s.
Okay, fine. Is that the best era of them?
It's the common era, yeah. There's a few prototypes that are available in the 60s.
Have you got other ones or just that one?
I've just got this one, but...
You've never bought another one?
No, but I will.
Seems like you should.
I know.
If you always use it.
The good thing with the metal drums, though, they're all quite... Okay. Wood drums age and... But because it's metal, they're
quite consistent.
They're more consistent.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, like the Ludwig 400 is a very common drum. That's like, people say it's like the most recorded snare drum.
A Ludwig 400?
Ludwig 400.
That's not that, though?
No.
Okay.
But this was like Ludwig's sort of school cheaper student version of that, and they made hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of them, and they were put in all the schools in America.
Wow.
But they're actually so good. I would put up this over 400 a lot of the time. It's like the one drum for me that like never has that pokey tone. It's more of a sort of scooped flat thing that just gets out of the way.
Sure.
But it can do the fat thing. You can like tune it down and put a little dampening. It can be the fat disco dry thing. But you can also tune it up. Also like the James Brown. Apparently that was a 60s Acrolite, which was cranked with no dampening, or like maybe like a wallet cranked.
The wallet is the thing.
Yeah.
Why is the wallet a thing?
I think that was just the easiest.
That's just like the dampening tool that they use.
Yeah, just to like get it out the pocket. You know? Yeah.
The nerdiest thing I've ever. I mean, I've hung out with Lloyd before. I knew he was a nerd, but this is. But I find it genuinely fascinating.
Yeah, man.
The only time I usually see chamois leathers is when I'm cleaning cars.
Cleaning cars, yeah. These are great. It's a sacrifice to like spend a lot of your money.
Yeah, and time.
Gear.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people want to say that, and I agree. It's like it's not really about the gear with most things, like as with most things. But I think with this kind of thing, unfortunately, it is a little bit about the gear.
Yeah, of course.
And I think people are scared to say that because it's not this like, if you're putting this, you don't want to put this gear on a pedestal and and make it not about music.
Sure.
And no one wants to be the person to say that kind of thing.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think that gear is really important.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I've always believed that.
I think, to be honest with you, whether it is or it isn't, I think the thing people get hung up about with gear personally is I actually, I had this experience in the studio, in fact, with Hannah the other day when we were working on some of that music, where I was like, you know what? I was like, yeah, we got to get the vocal into, if we get the vocal into this chain and this mic and this gear, and I was like, then it's going to be amazing, right? I actually think the truth is like, you can get amazing, it doesn't matter what you record it on. It can be on the shittest piece of gear or it can be on the best piece of gear. You can get amazing results. However, I think the thing about gear is it's romantic and I love it. And I think that's all that matters. And it's like, if that inspires you to make tunes and like record, and if this is what you love, then that's enough.
Yeah.
And actually, that might be the thing that gets you something really special, and that's why I think it's really important.
Yeah. And then maybe I'll take this off. So it's getting a bit choked now.
And there are obviously multiple elements to making a snare that are like, making a snare sound that like to make it the way you want it.
Yeah.
One of it is the rattle, because obviously you can have it off or on, and then you can have like, how much it rattles.
This is cool, man. I've been thinking about this quite a lot. Like, sometimes in a small room, I feel that like, I mean, that's cool. Sounds like a snare drum, you know. But what I've been experimenting a lot with recently is taping up the bottom. Because I did.
I saw you do that.
We did it. We did it. I mean, maybe it didn't work at that time for that track, or whatever.
No, I think it worked a bit.
It kind of makes it sound a bit more like a school drum, you know.
Right. It makes it sound cheaper, basically. Yeah. In a good way.
Yeah, because all that high-end info, sometimes like, in like the overheads, for example, the snare drum can be poking so much, and you're like, what can we do? And I think it's usually to do with it can often, if the drummer's playing it in a nice way and it's still happening, I feel that like, people don't really address the bottom head of the snare and the wires. I bet even if I did this for now, that'll make it sound quite boxy. But then I'll try.
Sometimes you will actually tape the wires.
Yeah, tape the wires, or let's see what this sounds like now. Yeah, that's really calmed down. That's actually cool. That's like it's the same character. The character of the drum hasn't changed, but I've just calmed down that.
So it's not
snare.
ringing. It's not the snare. The wires aren't.
The wires,
as much.
yeah, exactly. There's just like a little fizz. Exactly, just fizz has been taken off it, and that can be enough sometimes, just to be like, oh, that snare's just soothed back a little.
Sure.
And that's really cool. But then I might, even if I want more, I might like tape the wires, or sometimes I put like paper there's the head and the wires are here, and I might slide a bit of paper. And then you can also experiment, is that in the middle of the drum or is it towards the edges? The closer to the middle, the more damage it's doing, basically. It's hard in the moment because you're listening and you're like, oh, there's something weird going on.
That's always the balance. So you're sort of,
It's just trusting that it's going to be fine.
100%.
You know, but I don't know. In snares as well, like that sounds really good.
That's actually good.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's not too buzzy, it's not too fizzy. But then sometimes in the track, I bet that might sound a bit dull. With that tape on it. You know?
Got you,
So it's like just trusting. It's like, I guess it's like experience.
Sure.
You know.
Of course, yeah.
You know.
These jeans are by a brand called Oslo. The guy who founded this business, I imagine, he basically was obsessed. In fact, this jumper is also from Oslo. Obsessed with like American jeans from like Levi's from the 1950s, and he then basically, you know, they bought all of the mills from Levi's, and they had, you know, and then they like studied how they made them on looms, and it became this very, very hyper focused kind of sensibility, and you get that across Japan. You can go, you know, like you can go to like a guy who's been making yakitori in one tiny shop for his entire life, and he's just obsessed with making the perfect. It's not about him being the most famous chef in the world. He's just literally obsessed with like, so that that's his thing. And it's like you have an element of that, which I find. So there's like an artisanal, and that's kind of a very hipster modern thing as well. People like that with coffee. People like that with like beer. There's like it's almost like you've got a microbrewery. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of what you're doing, and I think that. I really do actually believe that this is like potentially the future of the music industry, in a sort of way of actually making it work financially for people. And like you actually are making a living. You are making a living doing it, you think? Yeah. And I think that's really, I think there's not that many people who are actually doing that.
Sure.
In a sort of really honest way without the help of like major labels and all that kind of thing. I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I guess it does. You know, if I go back like 5 years or even still now, but there was a real period of just being totally obsessed with like, I guess it sounds a bit crude, but just buying stuff, just buying gear, trying to talk to people and choose the best gear, but also just being like, you're just not being afraid to just work really hard, drop a load of money, on something that's maybe a bit. Bit silly. Sounds good.
So he's playing incredibly softly, but for example, we made this Holly McVie record we made, or actually with Hannah's as well, we had a similar thing. Such a small snare sound is producing like it sounds so small in the room, but then when you hear it recorded, it sounds like he's walloping a snare. And it's quite a sort of, you think that's kind of you've often spoken to me about that, basically about like how hard you hit a snare. Do you think that, did you learn
how
that?
hard I hit anything, you know.
Did you learn that from somebody? Is that like a thing? Have you read something about that?
No, I've just never been a hard hitter.
Fine.
And I think like, I've always, obviously, my background is in jazz and stuff.
Is that a jazz thing?
I guess so, but I think, it took a few years, I think, to develop the touch for other kinds of music. But I may as well set up some microphones.
So, he's just setting up these microphones here. Oh, hello, mate.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? What's going on?
You smell good.
Do I?
Yeah, you smell good.
Oh, thank you. This is Lloyd's twin brother.
How's it going? You alright?
Guitarist, producer, engineer. We've done a lot of work together. We've done a lot of work together. A lot of terrible work together.
Well, yeah.
But no one cares about. But we've done it.
Yeah, no one's doing it.
We know it exists. I've been trying to buy this guitar off of Alex. Why has the rubber bridge become like so popular?
Well, I first heard of rubber bridges when Jeff Tweedy was using them.
He was the first person who probably popularised it.
In my eyes, yeah.
Fine.
But this kind of from old style guitars
maybe.
Oh, he was the guy from Old Style in LA,
Yeah,
from the guitar shop in LA.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
It's his creation.
Oh, he created it. It's such an LA thing. So you put a piece of rubber underneath the bridge, underneath the strings of the bridge, right? Is that basically it?
That's basically
And it just dampens it.
It dampens it, but in a
Well,
way
you two, why are you both obsessed with dampening? Yeah, go on. Yeah. Okay, you bought the bridge. Did you assemble it yourself?
just put it in the guitar.
Okay, fine. And because I'm too stupid to do it myself, I just keep trying to buy the guitar because I really want one, but you can't find them.
The number keeps going.
And I think we're at like 3,000.
Yeah, we are 3,000.
Would you take 3,000 for it? Would you?
No.
Do you think you would? No, would you actually take 3,000 for it?
I do like this guitar, so probably.
That's how much it's worth to him. There's got to be a number. Would you take 5,000 for it?
I'll think about it. 5,000.
You wouldn't take $5 grand for it. You're fucking insane. How much is the guitar?
Probably like 600 quid, maybe.
That's mental.
Yeah, it's just lazy.
I don't know if that speaks more to your laziness, Dan.
I don't know who's more lazy. He could literally just be buying rubber bridges and putting them on guitars and sell them to idiots like me for that's crazy. There must be a number. If I seriously gave you 10 grand, you wouldn't take 10 grand for it?
I would take.
Fuck me. Sounds like... Doesn't even sound good.
I spend so much time, well, I have historically spent a lot of time trying to get drums to sound massive and to sound like punchy, but you know, 90% of the records I work on don't want that. They want drums to be small.
Yeah.
And like mono for sure, and not punchy. You just spend like so much time trying to get the drums to fuck off. You know what I mean?
Are those your go-to like overheads?
Not really, actually.
Oh, okay.
They are decent in this room. I find them a little bit boomy sometimes because of a lot of low end and stuff. So I usually have to filter a bit of that out.
Fine.
But they're cool. They're quite like flexible and they take EQ really well.
Are you gonna Are you gonna hang something else over there?
I might hang like a mono 47 or something
Okay.
here. On the weekend, I've got a session for 4 days of recording with 2 different artists. So 2 with one, 2 with another. So what's going to be good for me to do is to set up a lot of stuff and then
you can choose between.
For each song we can go, okay, we like the ribbons for this, we'll put the mono down, but then for this song we want a tighter sound and a bit brighter so we can take the ribbons down, and doing that with also like the snare close mic, I'll put like a KM84 and a dynamic on the snare top, and I can, you know, maybe if I get the brushes out, we can go into using the condenser, things like that. So I think for a session where I don't really know what it's going to be, unfortunately I have to just throw a load of stuff up. And
so it could be like 10, 15 mics?
Probably like 10 to 13 mics, but then there'll be a couple of like...
But you'll probably only use 5 or 6 on the sound itself?
Potentially,
Fine.
Or sometimes all of them. Yeah.
See who it is. Hopefully someone really interesting.
Oh, it's Matt Wiggins.
Oh yes, mate.
Come on in. Look, no, we're filming.
Oh.
Matt Wiggins, incredible engineer.
I'd have done my hair.
How's it going?
Oh mate. How come you're here?
He's got my headphones.
Oh, I see.
My coffee.
Oh.
Yeah, moved out Friday.
Oh wow.
It's got windows, bigger room.
Oh, mate, it looks amazing. I just saw the picture you sent me. How's work?
Busy.
Is it?
April's looking busier. So
What are you doing?
Just with other humans in the room.
Oh, really?
Like perfect timing.
Producing or mixing?
Bit of producing, bit of engineering.
Oh, nice. Matt, you know I've been making stupid videos. You've seen them. I'm now...
Yeah, they're cool.
I met Matt 2016?
Yeah, what, second record?
Second album.
Yours
second
were newer.
album.
Yours were new. They weren't.
Matt was working as an engineer for Paul Epworth.
I've got a couple of pairs here, but we've got broken pairs. But that's the only other pair.
He was.
I'll get the adapter. Yeah, don't worry.
He was working as Paul's engineer. And then.
I feel like they were.
Then he made the third. Then he made Californian sort. Oh, I've got to start again.
They all.
Big love.
Nice one, mate. Good to see you, man.
Much love, Matt.
Nice one, mate.
What mic do you have on the kick?
That's a Neumann FET 47.
I knew it was a FET 47.
Yeah, I did a session with this amazing engineer, Dan Rothman, recently. He had a ribbon much like this, a Voya, on the snare under. I just thought it was really cool, and it was a really cool sound. It can just be like a buzz. It's just like a buzz, and it's just a bit like.
What's the purpose of the snare under?
It's to capture the texture of the snare wire. It's less boxy than a 57. It's got a bit more of a 3K sort of bump, which is always really nice on a snare. Shout out to Extinct, amazing mics. I mean, I'm not really doing it justice here by having it on the snare under, but I use them as overheads. So this is sounding good, you know?
What do you think is the most common thing that the average person trying to record a drum kit gets wrong? What do you think is what's the one thing?
To do with the instrument or to do with the...
Well, actually, if you had to pick one thing above everything, because really you could people can record a drum kit and make it sound good with one microphone. So like...
Well, I guess like mic positioning is going to be really important.
Yeah.
And I guess if you've got no control over the room, trying to get the room to sound good.
Fine.
But also like...
Do you think drum tuning is up there?
Tuning is probably less up there than people think. Because
really? Okay, fine.
Obviously tuning is important, but like... Yeah, like dampening, and if we're putting all that under the same umbrella, then yeah, for sure tuning is important. Like getting the dampening right, getting the right amount of like resonance out of each drum.
But really, for you, ultimately, it's basically the combination of everything.
It has to be the combination of everything, because one of those things can break it.
Really, that's so interesting.
That's
why it's so difficult to get right.
That's probably why it is difficult, actually.
Because there's so many elements to consider.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say there's one that's more important. Unfortunately, like there's no tricks.
No,
I guess that's what I know you're not asking that explicitly.
No, more just like
it's just like any like the quick tip. But I think like positioning. Also, there's like different things. Like, this is a good example of like I think people think of overheads as this wide stereo thing, or maybe people think of overheads as like they're for the cymbals.
Sure.
But actually, that's not what it. For me, that's not what it is.
No.
Really, the overheads are for the picture of the kit as a whole. And if you can get the overheads sounding really banging, then you're only enhancing them with the other mics.
That's really good.
So for me, like the overheads are the most important thing.
That's really interesting.
Because. And like even here, like these are very narrow, but this works. I don't need this spread, this like high out over the left, wide over the right. But
you know how like am I right in saying that like with like most like classic drum breaks that are recorded in the 60s or like it's on soul records, are they not often just like one mic in the middle of the kit? Yeah. That is the thing. So they
or
would
like a mono.
Or would it be a mono overhead?
Yeah, mono overhead or very like close overhead like this.
Really? Okay.
And it's all like one mic, you know, so you can do a lot with one. Of course, we all know like.
You think they would so they would either be placing them in the middle of the kit there or somewhere in the.
Like say if this tom wasn't here, they might have it here.
Oh, I see.
Or they might have
one overhead there.
One overhead, quite. You know, if I did one overhead here at this level, I would be lacking in a couple of things. Yeah. A bit of bottom end, maybe a bit of punch.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a way that I can position one overhead. Maybe lower down. This is where compression comes in handy to really like get a nice even sound picture of the kit that's super punchy.
That's really, I think that's really interesting.
That's really cool. But you have to know, like for my sessions on the weekend, for example, I can't do that because necessarily I could listen to the song and on the day decide to do that. But in preparation for it, I couldn't do that. It's too risky.
This sounds so fucking good in the room. Can you just do the beat one as well? I basically want to just record it on my phone just so I have it. This is my version of one overhead. What's going to really piss you off is that that's going to sound better than all of this. Or just that. That'll fuck you off.
Probably will, yeah. You make a sample out of that, mate. Get my PPL.
I don't think I can probably make a hit with that. Just that bit. I do find it really fascinating, Lloyd. Honestly, like hearing you talk about it, it's amazing. Right. And like,
yeah, I love it too.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
a world, isn't it?
It really is, and it is amazing. And I feel like I just love like how passionate you are about it. It's wicked.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.